and then you tweet the link.
Yep. We're good.
All right. What's up, guys? Week number 1 or 2,
Two,
week 0,
three.
week 1.5, week 3. This is episode 3, right?
Episode
Yeah.
3. Yes.
So, anyways, we're going to get into everything that's going on in college wrestling, everything that's just going on in general. And Gannon is in California, right?
We think, yeah. He also tells people he works, we don't really know.
Yeah.
So he claims.
Shout out to Gannon.
Love Gremmel.
He's holding it down, our West Coast correspondent this morning. We got Tony Hager.
What up?
Good morning. We got Tyler on the 1s and 2s.
What's going on, everybody?
I do want to shout out Barbarian Apparel, the best apparel company in the game. They did not a conflict. The Barbarian Apparel red, Barbarian Apparel blue.
Yes.
And also shout out, what are you drinking this morning?
We're drinking Gable and High Noons. They're not a sponsor yet, but they will be. Yeah, Gable, single speed beer came out with they got a new 12-pack out. It's got the Iowa State version, the Hawkeye version, and then like the USA version too. So pretty dope. I'm not sure when it's gonna be in stores. It's supposed to be available like the week of the Iowa State duel. So they've been teasing some things out on their social media, but yeah, we're drinking Gables here early on a Monday morning.
Early on a Monday morning. I also want to shout out our Patreon. We have a weekly, it's like a daily newsletter that we put out, all kinds of new wrestling content. Jake and the team are killing it, absolutely killing it, putting out all kinds of cool content for wrestling fans.
Started my trek to $500. You can follow that on the Patreon too.
I do want to talk about that in a second. Shout out to I Wrestled, did Grandview this weekend.
Yeah.
I followed along, so we'll talk about that later on in the show as well. But yeah, let's start off with Tyler's thing that we started last week.
Yeah,
okay, so
absolutely.
he started with $20. He's trying to get up to 500. If he doesn't get there by nationals, he's gonna do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy in Kansas City. And I guess if you win, you just get the $500.
Yeah, I just get to walk away with 500.
I like it.
The thing is, we got to find an open mic in Kansas City.
I mean, that's not gonna be an issue.
I think
I don't think so.
I think the
we'll
street. I think do it on the street.
We can get outside. Like we'll get like a 6-foot table. We can happen. Make it happen.
If it's not a setting for stand-up comedy, it's brutal to try to like groom people to be a part of something like that. You know what I mean?
We will find a stand-up comedy place.
I think we could do it on the street too.
It's not going to matter because I'm going to hit 500.
We need a lot of people there though, right? We need people to show up that don't even know Tyler.
Agreed.
Be like, God, this guy's actually kind of funny, or like,
It's not
like,
hard.
this is
It's
fucking
gonna go
horrible.
bad. It's gonna go bad. There's no way you can first try
No.
kill the room.
Like you should like just start like writing like some jokes now.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
just like, and then you just drop a couple of them on here and we'll, get some feelers.
Yeah. Have you ever, like on Kill Tony, if you've ever seen people just go up and wing it, there's no way you can just wing it and it turns out fine for you. I'm going to have to do a little bit of preparation and writing beforehand, and it'll still go bad, but it won't be as bad as just bombing with nothing prepared at all.
But nonetheless, you got $20. The cover, VTech, Ohio State duel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I lost $5 the first week on the Iowa Cal Baptist, and now I'm back up to 1955 because of that Ohio State VT Tech duel.
What'd you see in the duel that made you want to lay the money on Ohio State?
I just always go with I have like 2 main group chats now who I can go over picks with, and everyone was just saying Ohio State easily, and so I just followed what my boys' picks were.
My group was telling me VTech, so
I was in both.
I'm not happy about this.
I was in both. I'm in that one and the other one, and that one group's VTech, the other one's Ohio State. But what happened was, the first group chat said Ohio State easy, so I go immediately place the bet because the lines on Circa move so fast because it doesn't take a bunch of money to move the points. And at 10, I thought it was going to go down to like 6. Then the other group chat's like VTech easy. I'm like, gosh, dang it. I've already locked in because I probably, they don't have cash out offers, but if they did, I might have switched. Thank goodness I didn't because that duel, it wasn't even close. I think Ohio State covered 10 if they were the favorites.
Yeah, money line would have been sick there. I mean, they looked horrible.
I think the thing with college wrestling, and I was telling Tyler, this is how you know that I'm sick, because, and this is why I'm done gambling. Other than college wrestling, I'm done with everything else.
Yeah.
I got flack in the Discord for saying I was done gambling last week. The difference is I won this week, but this is why I think I'm going to quit after the season, because I realized I don't really do it for the money.
Absolutely.
Okay, obviously, because I've, probably in college wrestling, I'm doing fine. Everything other sport, it's bad news or whatever. Nothing crazy, mom or dad. But with wrestling, what I realize is after the Ohio State duel, Ohio State Virginia Tech, the first match, Ohio State puts out an unranked freshman, McCrone, and he goes out and beats Ben Tresca, who is an All-American. He's on my fantasy team. And after that, I'm like, dang, now what? Because at that point, it's probably already covered. You know what I mean? Because that was a big one that a lot of people were saying is going to go to Virginia Tech. So that was going to be a big one for the cover. Okay. So sometimes in wrestling, the spreads are so massive that if one thing goes different, for example, Iowa dominated that whole Cal Baptist duel. If Bradley Hill loses, that they lost.
Yep.
So they can dominate the whole way. But if one bad thing happens, it goes for the other team.
Yeah.
So the reason why I know I'm sick was after McCrone wins, I'm like, all right, well, Ohio State's covered. Now what? Like, I'm just bored and I'm just over it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not bored of the wrestling, but I'm bored in terms of like
Absolutely.
the gambling thrill is done. So you immediately look for that second bet or whatever. So you got to gamble responsibly. But what I'm saying is I'm in it for the thrill more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, you would have been like, if you were live betting every match, you definitely would have bet every live match from there on out.
And that's what makes UFC fun, is being able to do the live betting.
I mean, I lost $200 on UFC just because everyone's like, we're watching the fights. Like, I'll throw $100 on it. Zero research, nothing. Like, horrible. Like, just getting drunk. Like, let's just put some money on some fights. Bad idea.
Tyler, what did I tell you? What was my betting strategy at the end of the night?
What was it? What do you mean?
I was like, well, who you taking or whatever? I'm like, I'm just gonna go on vibes.
During UFC though, I've had a ton of success of live betting UFC. Like, every time I've put bets down prior to the fight happening, I almost lose them all the time. But like during like live betting UFC, I think is the only way to go. I mean, the nice thing about UFC is you can watch kind of like how their weigh-in, like they have videos of like how their weigh-ins go. They cut a lot of weight. How do they respond to like those fights that are big that they are cutting weight. So like watching the fights is the best way to go, because you can just feel like you can just see how their body reacted to that weight cut. And I mean, I feel pretty confident that 8 out of 10 times I feel pretty good about like how the fight's gonna go off like the first like 30 seconds of a fight.
Based off the weight?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not every fight. But like if there's one that I would target that like, hey, that guy knew that guy was doing a big cut, feel pretty confident that I see you can just tell how their body reacted to it.
What about the walkouts? Because I based mine kind of off the walkouts. You're trying to bet the Pereira Yuri fight, Prohaska, and Tyler's like, who should I take? So I put him on Yuri, which, sorry about that. And Pereira's walking out. He's like, oh no, Pereira's winning. Like just looking at Pereira, looking at Yuri, he's like, if this guy wasn't from the Czech Republic and he's from Ohio with that haircut, you know what I'm saying, with the white dreads, he's like, it was over. It was over before it even started.
When I first saw that dude walk out, I was like, oh, why did I take that bet? And then I saw he was from Czech Republic, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like a foreign guy who has this appearance. Like we had said, if he was like from California, it's like, okay, this is gonna be lame. Yeah,
I'm also just betting straight Russians from now on.
That's a guarantee.
Not a bad strategy. I was just fiending after that, like that VTech Ohio State duel, like just wanting to have more. That was one thing that was nice about Betfred, is they threw around a lot of different duels, and Circa doesn't get as aggressive, and I totally get it, right? Like you just said, one match is a game changer. Huge swing, right? Especially if there's like a crazy pin. You're talking a 12-point swing, and that shit can happen in wrestling, right? And that's why I don't think wrestling has had a lot of odds on it like the other sports, is because of its. I mean, insider knowledge can happen pretty easy with a kid being sick, but he's still wrestling, so he might not cover like he normally can be. I mean, you should have that in other sports, but there's so much individual to like the team aspect. Is different than like those individual sports. So I really curious if like someone could get the inside track with Circa of like where the money was on it. obviously other sports, like you can say, hey, 60% of the money was on this. But we're talking like NFL where we're having millions of bets, right? But wrestling's got probably less than 1,000 bets on it, if even 500 bets. So like just to find out like what the percentage of the money was on. Betfred used to tell me, hey, like this is our handle on this duel. Like we need Iowa to not cover, otherwise we're effed, right?
Really?
So that was
It's
pretty
like that.
cool of
Uh,
having to know where the money was at.
I want to say last year for the Cyhawk duel, somebody had mentioned that the Circa guy on the radio said that they had more bets on the Iowa State duel that Sunday than any NFL game on that Sunday.
No way.
In Iowa.
In Iowa?
Yeah, Iowa. You got to think though.
I can see that, though.
That's not like that's just Circa, right? So that would make sense.
Got it.
Obviously, like most people who are betting on football are probably going to bet on the other bigger books.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Circa went, they had more bets on college wrestling than any NFL game that day. Which I believe it because that line when Spencer Lee got announced that he was wrestling, it went from like 6.5.
Yeah.
Insane. I wonder how they made out that day too.
Well, it would be they would want the underdogs to win, right? So they did really well.
Typically, yeah, I think. Especially in a situation where you hear Spencer Lee's going, most of the money's probably going on Iowa. I mean, even if you're a Cyclone fan, you're probably dumping money on Iowa just because you like to gamble. I mean, let's be honest. Like, there's people that gamble to make money, and there's people that gamble just because they're just fans, like just fans in general. So, I think the general public would have been on Iowa, but like the sharps would have probably been on Iowa State. I don't know, but
I'm glad that they're doing it in other states too, because Circa's doing it in Illinois. I think they're doing it anywhere that college sports are, anywhere that Circa is, which I think is like 4 states. They're doing it on any of those states that allow college wrestling gambling. They're doing it on. I hope they do pick it up a little bit, put a little bit more action out there, because right now it's been like one a week.
Yeah. I remember last season they had multiple duels per weekend. They would do at least like 2 or 3. So maybe as the season picks up, they'll start.
There wasn't really any
feel for it and putting more out.
There wasn't really any marquee duels though, like
That's
that people are gonna watch.
Yeah, they definitely try to pick out those ones as well to put lines on. So
I mean, no one watched Cal Baptist Iowa, other than Iowa fans, and the fact that it was on a night that like nothing else was really going on. So I see why they put that line out there. Yeah. But I mean, I would expect things to pick up here this weekend, next weekend, just with duels. But I'm not a bookmaker, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we have some people in the comments. Is Betfred done posting lines for wrestling now?
As of right now, the guy that was making lines for that has gone on to a different position. So it's hard to find someone that knows what the hell they're talking about that can actually put these lines together. So it's not like they can call me up, Zach up, Tyler up, like wrestling people, and they say, hey, we're going to start making lines. Like, you have to have you have to put an analytical side to things of why your lines are that. I mean, so I don't think it's just, there's not wrestling bookmakers out just floating around out there. Like, I think it's the labor of love probably of people that you have pretty good connections too, and I mean, there's just not a lot of systems out there in place like other sports where you can say, hey, when Iowa travels more than 3 hours, they don't cover. Like in other sports, like there's stats galore. Wrestling doesn't have that, so I don't think Betfred comes back unless they can find somebody. I just don't think it happens.
What was that other book too that did it like 2 seasons ago? William and something.
William Hill, which is now
Circa.
Is now Caesars.
Caesars.
But they just did it towards the end of the year. And I remember they put out a bet, and I did the math, that they made a good mistake. So they had a futures bet on the national title, right? Team title. And Penn State was a heavy favorite. Actually, it's crazy. Penn State, this is the year that COVID happened. Penn State was an even money favorite. Okay? So even money, yes. Right? And this is when you had to go out to Prairie Meadows and actually physically place your wager. Yep. This is like day one legalization of gambling. And it got on the Hawkeye Report or somewhere to Prairie Meadows. The line goes from even money, crazy, to minus 300 to Penn State. But the way that the math worked out was if you put a certain amount of money on Penn State and a certain amount of money on Iowa, no matter who won, you were going to win. If Iowa won, you were going to win a lot. If Penn State won, you were still going to – either way, you were going to come out ahead.
Yeah.
So it ends up COVID gets canceled. It never happened. They got super lucky because they would have – I mean, the line went from even money to minus 300 in like a day. So they would have got completely cooked if that actually went through. Luckily for them, COVID hit and it didn't happen.
I do remember that, dude. That was – I mean, those – being able to take advantage of lines from both sides just doesn't happen, right? It does happen, but, like, I mean, it's like an anomaly, right? So
there's no arbitrage, really, because you can't bet this book and then this book and do that. But, man, that would have been – that's the thing, though, about college wrestling gambling is there's so many things. Like you said, you can't just be a wrestling mind. You also have to be a math mind. You also have to be an insider because you got to figure out you don't know who's going to go most of the time. That's a controversial subject, but
you also have to know what the public is going to want. Like, and you have to have it has to be a good enough line to where you're going to get both sides. So you get the juice. Books only really care about the juice. If you can have 50-50 on the money, you're going to get the juice and you win every time. Right. So having a line where you get enough both sides, but there's obviously going to be lines that are going to be more heavy public. So having that knowledge of like, hey, we feel like people are going to bet VTech right here. That's why we set the line for 10, but we know Ohio State's going to win. Like that's whoever set that line had a pretty good line, right? It wasn't too big, but
it was enticing.
I think so.
And it also, I just think Circa's done the best job of just giving like fair lines. They do. Never mind. But they do a great job of making it. I think that they've done the best job out of all the books so far.
Setting the best lines.
And also I wish they would have a little bit more volume, but I think they're playing a smart game because obviously, they don't want to lose a bunch of money on it. Then we wouldn't have it at all. So
yeah,
I do wish we got a little bit more of a lead time.
One thing, the lead time would be great. One thing that is they have a 1K limit. So that's a pretty big limit for wrestling. In my opinion, I think. You see people that are doing really well in other books, and they say they're getting suppressed where they can only bet like 100 to 250. I mean, Circa's always been 1K for me, anyways. I mean, that's a lot. You mess up on a line, you can get killed pretty fast.
Yeah,
but
a lot of college wrestling happened over the weekend. We could start off with the Luther Open. The Ferraris are back. It was interesting to see a Ferrari back in the mix. Nothing crazy happened really at any other weights. I know 149 was the
loaded
was the bracket everybody was looking forward to seeing how that played out. Do you have any insight on if that's a wrestle-off situation? Are they using the Luther Open as a wrestle-off? I know they used to go to Grandview back in the day. Now they're at Luther. What was your take on like them sending everybody? I know they sent everybody last year, but
yeah, since they got rid of the Iowa City duels, they really have been putting a pretty big. Their studs have been going to the Luther Open, which is awesome for that tournament. It's anytime you can get the Hawkeyes in your tournament, it's a huge plus. But, I'd hate this. Tom and Terry and the staff. I never know where they're at, where they value certain things at. I think having that matchup kind of maybe shine some light on some things for them, probably as far as, I mean, for fans too, like, was Anthony for real? Like, was he the guy? But is Vonovich, like, I don't know, that weight class, I think for me is still up. And like, I don't feel like everyone's like, hey, all right, Ferrari's in, like now we're, title 10. I know I still feel like it's a little bit of a weak spot, even though, I mean, people are excited about Ferrari winning just because they love the Ferraris. Like, people are obsessed with that family, mainly because AJ. But I don't know. Traditionally, I feel like the Hawks just they don't really go by wrestle-offs. They don't go by tournament results. They just, whoever they feel like is the best man for the spot is where they've kind of done that. That's just been my perspective. But, um, Thomas changed a lot of things since Spencer Lee's been on campus too, though. So
Yeah.
it's how the team is vibing, right? Who they put in there. They've let kids wrestle in certain duels just because it's for certain reasons. I guess I probably can't say, but I don't know. Luther Open was what we expected. I'm really kind of concerned. I guess what I took away from that was like Brody Teskey having the med forfeit out. Like what's going on there? Drake Iola looked good. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Ferrari like winning? I mean, everyone was talking about it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal as everybody else does, but maybe you guys have a different perspective on it, I guess.
I was excited to see Voinovich wrestle Joel Jezeroga.
Right.
That went to triple overtime or whatever. Went to the ride outs. Joel ended up getting rode out at the end. I thought he was going to win. He got out right away against Voinovich in regulation. Ended up going to overtime. I just think 149 is going to be one that we see multiple guys throughout the season. We're obviously not going to see Anthony until second semester. And Voinovich has a big knee brace on, so who knows what's going to happen with him. So it could be Joel Jezeroga in there as well. I think that's probably the weight that's going to be rotating throughout the season, depending on who it is. That's a weight that they're going to need to win against Iowa State if they want to beat Iowa State. If you want to talk about that, we can. But I think right now, the way that it's looking with Iowa's lineup, we don't really know for sure what it's going to look like in March, which is kind of the case. It was a case with Penn State this weekend as well. They had some guys sitting out. I know people were, again, it's like beating a dead horse every year. We talk about duck season, but I think if you look at it, it's November. I know a lot of us are excited to watch wrestling because it's here, it's finally back, but we do got to kind of ease ourselves into the season. It's going to be a long season. I'm just the Ferraris are back. It's been a long time since we've seen them. They bring a level of entertainment to the sport that I think that this sport needs, and it's kind of a match made in heaven for people like me who just love the drama and the tea of wrestling.
Well, AJ was there.
AJ was there, and he was there.
He was there. I mean, I saw pictures of him being there.
What was he wearing?
He had a shirt on.
Yeah, I think they were coaching Anthony.
You're like, he's got a shirt on, so maybe he's a changed man. I don't know.
No, was he wearing a black and gold shirt? Was he wearing?
I had to pull up the shirt. I didn't investigate his shirt, but I mean, all signs points to AJ being, a Hawkeye, right?
Second semester.
He's followed some IRL people, so I mean,
who?
I feel like he's coming.
Did he fall IRL?
He's coming. He's coming to Iowa. I would be shocked if he's not. I mean,
here's a crazy thing though. When you see people announce that, who was it? Did Patton tweet it this weekend?
Yeah,
and people will replying to that like Hawkeye accounts will reply like, no, that's not happening. So I don't know if they're denying that it's happening or if they just don't believe that it's going to happen.
They don't want it to happen.
That's very possible.
But it's going to happen.
I mean, they lost Chittum arguably probably because the Ferrari came. So, I mean, that's...
Someone commented on here and said that Voinovich is probably like, damn, I thought I lost these guys in Oklahoma.
No comment.
Yeah.
That is crazy, though. There was two Oklahoma State guys in the finals, but in a different color,
Hawkeyes look... I think Hawkeye fans are super, anxious right now than we've seen in a long time as far as, who's going to be in the lineup, the transfer portal, they don't know some of these two guys that came in. Obviously, the gambling situation that just dropped last week. What I'm curious, we're talking about gambling and whatnot. It's not involved in but I mentioned in a text to somebody. I said, well, now there's going to be an asterisk by the Iowa State-Iowa duel, right?
Mm.
Even though there shouldn't be, there will be from the Iowa fan base, right? We would have maybe won with our starters, right? But we have this that happened. There's no. It's kind of like when Penn State, they set out their guys, and Iowa was going to win the national title. Like, well, our guy, we decided to send him out for, can't remember what season that was, but like probably like Olympic trials or something, but Olympic year. Um, there was going to be an asterisk by it if they won. Do you feel like, I know you're Iowa State people, you're an Iowa State guy, but like, you would have rather won with those guys in the lineup, right? Iowa fans are going to say, oh, we would have won with those guys, period.
Yeah.
Wait, say the last sentence. What was the last sentence?
The sentence was Iowa fans will say, well, we would have won with those three guys.
They could say that. They could say a lot of things, but I can't say no, there's not an asterisk fast enough. Okay. Let me break down why. If you do that, you're taking away everything that Tom did. Okay. So we knew back in May or whatever, right, that there was going to be some wrestlers that were probably going to be in trouble, right? This has been happening. This has been going on for a long time, the gambling investigation, right? We all know that. We've talked about it 1,000 times. And what did Tom do? Tom went out immediately and went and got replacements for those guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't put an asterisk there when it's something that's beyond control. Okay. So you got to go out there. Actually, sorry. You can't when it's something that you could control. Okay. So Iowa and Iowa State, they both knew the rules of gambling. Now, when I say that, I think that the punishments are insane. I think that they got it wrong. I think that those guys should have been able to wrestle. And I'll also say that I think that those guys, I wish they were wrestling because I think Iowa State had an outside shot at beating them, and it would have been way better of a party for me if we would have beat the real Iowa Hawkeyes with the 100%. Real lineup. But with that said, part of playing the game is the rules, okay? And your guys broke the rules. We had some guys that broke the rules. They just happen to have more impactful athletes sitting out than probably Iowa State. Now, I know Pinero's sitting out, Big 12 champion. He's a marquee guy for Iowa State. Shout out to Pinero Johnson. But with that said, that comes down to coaching. Now, I'm not going to go as far as blaming anybody because I do not blame Tom Brands for doing that, okay? I do not blame Tom Brands for those guys breaking the rules or whatever. I truly think it was just a matter of circumstances, and it sucks that they did this big investigation. There's 50 different states, and it comes down to just a handful of kids that are getting punished for something that's going on nationwide. That's a guarantee. Okay. But with that said, that is something that is controllable. Okay. You can really drill into these kids' heads about the rules, the compliance. It's been a rule for a long time. So you can't put an asterisk there, in my opinion, because that's something that could have been coached up more. Now, I think Tom, I don't blame Tom at all, but that it was controllable. It was something that they could have went out there and said, hey, you can't do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. When the Iowa fair catch happened, the Iowa special teams comes out and they say that we preach the rules before every single game, the special teams thing, and we actually talked about that, and we let these kids know just in case something like that were to happen. So you can't put an asterisk there because that was something that was controllable from both teams, from every team. And going forward, it's not. I guarantee you, if they did investigation next year, it would be almost zero of the kids that got in trouble, because no matter the state, because now they have the benefit of hindsight to say, hey, look what happened to these kids. Don't do it. There was no hindsight before. These kids have never. There was no people gambling in college or on. There was no college wrestlers gambling before because it wasn't legal. This is a new thing. So with that said, it was a controllable thing. For me, an asterisk would have to be something that's out of control, that's out of both teams' control. And this was something that it was controllable. It slipped through the cracks. I don't blame Tom Brands. I'm not saying it's his fault at all. I'm not in that camp of people that say this is lack of leadership. I don't believe so. I just think it was something. It's so new, and unfortunately, there has to be someone who gets in trouble first, and it really, 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 really sucks that it happened to Iowa, and it really sucks that it happened to Iowa State. But there just can't be an asterisk when it was something that could have been prevented from whoever, right? From the compliance department.
I'm not saying that there should be an asterisk. I'm just telling you that there will be one.
There can be.
There will be.
There can be.
I'm not saying that there should be. I'm just telling you, as someone that has been in as an Iowa fan when I started this whole journey, and being in those bars and that topic, they're like, well, we would have won that. It's just that's how wrestling the rest of people are, right?
Yes,
Like
idiots do exist.
Unfortunately, I think if you're an Iowa State fan, it almost like God, we feel like this is the year that we could have beat Iowa, like we could beat Iowa, like this is. But now it's gonna feel like maybe they wouldn't have beaten us, right? We wouldn't have beaten. I don't know.
I think
it sucks for Iowa State more than it sucks for Iowa.
There's
personally.
more asterisks when an injury happens. I would be more okay with an asterisk with injuries than I am for gambling, because injuries you can't really prevent. Okay,
True.
It's gonna happen. The gambling thing was a preventable thing.
Yeah.
Again, we have the benefit of hindsight, and I can't say this enough. I'm not blaming anybody. Like,
yep.
If you investigated all the teams, I think
source.
even the Saint Cale Sanderson would have probably had some guys on the team that gambled, but maybe not, And I just think that
you don't want a source.
I just think there can't be an asterisk with something that was preventable. There can't be an asterisk if it's something that's unpreventable, like injuries or even sickness. If they got food poisoning the day before, you could say there's an asterisk, but I don't believe in asterisks either, because anything can happen to any team.
Right. And I don't know if we want to get into it this early, because we're going to have like weeks of leading up to this at the end of November. But when I haven't crunched the numbers or anything, but when you look at it, it seems like Iowa State has a pretty decent shot of winning this year.
I think so too. And that's what I don't know if I even finished my point, because I just ranted for about an hour and a half. But the point was, Tom went out and he controlled the controllable by going out and getting Caliendo, because there was – we didn't know who was going to be out. I know that there was rumors that their 165-pounder was going to be out. He got 57, which allegedly people are saying that I saw on Twitter, people were saying that Kobe Seabrook's out for the year. So he got him replaced. So Tom went out and controlled the controllable. So you can't take that away from him, and you can't take that away from Iowa State either.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane, though, that the NCAA has had their official announcement on this gambling thing, and we still don't know for sure, for a fact, who exactly all is affected by it in the lineup.
Yeah, there has not been an official statement from Iowa State or Iowa. Now, the wrestlers have come out at the Iowa. They kind of mentioned it, right? But there hasn't been a press release, right? Unless I've been privy of this.
Well,
nothing from the universities.
It happened last week. Right? November 8th was –
yeah.
So I would imagine Dresser will for sure address it tomorrow with his media day. I don't know. Does Tom have a media day tomorrow?
Yeah, usually they're all on Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
So I imagine Tom probably won't get asked, but I bet he comes out with a statement, and just – because that's what he did with the media day before the season started. He just came out and was like, hey, here's what's going on. All right, ask me about everything else.
Yeah.
Which at that point he didn't really have a whole lot to really go off of, but – My guess is they both talk about it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
This wrestling, though, things are just suppressed, unfortunately, what actual news are. I mean, and it's news that's going to come out. Talked about last week of, the Corey Clark thing of me, that shit was going to come out. Just get it out and get ahead of it. That's what I don't understand about wrestling people is, it's going to come out. Control the news that gets broke. Instead of, letting it leak to some random freaking Twitter person that, you know what I mean?
Keith Murphy from Channel 13 has been tweeting pretty consistently, very descriptive details, copy and pasted from these guys, from Remsburg, the Iowa State lineman. Those guys, lawyers, clearly are in contact, hey, get this out. We want this out.
They'd be dumb not to.
Yeah.
Dumb not to. Control what you can control, and that's the message of media, period. But for some reason, wrestling, it's just nothing gets out there. It's fucking crazy. It's so annoying. But yeah, Iowa State duel still going to be super exciting. I'd be curious what the line's going to be from Circa on that. I've said it before that I felt like this was the year that Iowa State could win it, with even the starters at Iowa. So I'm not out here saying that there's an asterisk behind it based off of how I feel. I'm just saying that's going to happen. So move on from the asterisk, okay? But it's going to happen. Iowa, that's how Iowa fans are going to be you're going to lose if you're an Iowa State fan, which sucks, right? Like if you win, there's an asterisk. If you lose, it's Iowa.
If
I know
if
it's
if
just
if people are asterisking this, I'm gonna asterisk every single dual mate. Every single dual mate that Iowa State wrestles Iowa, and we have a guy out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I'm gonna asterisk every single one of them
Yep.
because why not? If they're gonna do it, I can do it.
All right. So, moving on.
We got so many ways to go here. We got all these upsets. We got Navy killing it, but then we also got, and we're 35 minutes in, so let's choose wisely. But we also got Pat being the best videographer for Flow Wrestling we've ever seen. So which way we want to go here?
Who commented that?
I think it was Sways.
Pat.
Sways. Oh yeah, Pat Minio. We can talk about that. Pat Min, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
My thing about that is, I've been pretty vocal to a lot of people. I'm talking about it on the show that I think Flow should be more open to people posting clips of matches because it promotes their own content, right? Like you want people to post clips. Like I'm sure you would love if people were posting about Night of Conflict, even if it was like a takedown there and there. Obviously, you can't be posting like full matches or even like, a minute would be a lot or something like that. But ultimately, like if I see like the Crookham thing, like Ryan Crookham beating Vito, which we can talk about, I saw like the end of that, and then I went back and watched the full match on Flo's YouTube. The thing is, Pat is not going to get the pass because his pass with Flo. I mean, if you're Pat, you got to kind of understand that you and Flo have had a pretty tumultuous past. Of course, they're not going to let you.
I mean, the dude was live streaming events in his Facebook group that he feels like is a brand. I'm not really sure, but anyways, you have a past of just basically stealing content, so obviously you're gonna have a microscope on top of you. Period. I'm on the camp of yours of where it comes to. I wish that they would let you. In my defense of Pat was it's his video, it's his. He's there physically putting it out. So when it comes to like the legalities of who does and does have not have, like you have streaming rights and there's video rights, right? So like I feel like if someone's at a Flow event, they have the streaming rights but not the video rights. You should be able to post your own video, up to maybe like 30 seconds or whatever it may be. You can't post a full match. Period. That's just bad business. But there has to be some kind of a line as a video rights and streaming rights holder of what you allow to happen. So there's so many different ways to go with this whole Pat Minio thing, like against Flow thing, and it's pretty documented. I'm surprised he hasn't been set with a defamation lawsuit multiple times, but there's clearly a hatred there from maybe both sides, I guess. I hate to side with Pat. I hate to side with Flo on this situation, because there's no real right reason other than the law, the contract of technically he's not supposed to do that. So that sucks. Maybe it's not the right way, but like for respect, like if he or someone recorded the match from the Flow stream and then posted that on their social media, that you just can't do that. But if it's your own video, I do feel like you should be able to post
a certain amount. Right. Yeah.
Like if you go to Fargo and post 500 matches on your YouTube channel, like that's not okay. Like 500 clips is probably not okay. It just, there's got to be, what's that for Flow? It's hard for them probably to control that.
Well,
right?
I don't want to get super into it. We got into it once with them about posting, we included something in a video of ours and had a conversation with people over there. And, legally we possibly were in the wrong. I don't know. Okay.
Likely yes.
Who knows? We could have been in the wrong. But the point is, other people would post full-on matches. That's where my thought was like, okay, these people are posting full-on matches. Of the video that we posted that we got in trouble for, 10% was footage that apparently, allegedly, we were not allowed to use. We know that now, okay? But other people would post entire matches. Now, I don't blame Flow for getting on us because we've had a pass with them. And if you're going to look at the people that they're going to allow, they're probably going to look at like who treats them fairly and who doesn't. So we, in the past, have trolled the hell out of Flow and done things, covered the Willie trials and whatnot. And obviously, if you look up and down a lineup, we're going to be the guys that they're not going to pick. And it's probably the same for Pat. If this kid who, posts his whole match, they're probably going to allow it if he's
with his like 200 YouTube subscribers.
That's the problem with the system, right? Like we've got people that have huge followings and they're posting stuff that technically isn't their rights. Then we've got people that are just starting a YouTube channel that are posting way more stuff. Those people are okay, but the ones that have a huge following, not okay because they're potential competition.
Yes.
Which I understand that as a rights holder, but there just has to be a line. Like if we're gonna go after stalemates for posting full matches, we go after Joe Schmo that's posting full matches from your own live stream on YouTube. And maybe you can't get those shut down as easy as they are as, hey, I'm just gonna DM Zach, right? Like, and I would feel like most media people, if they get like Flo or someone reach out and says, hey, I want you to take that down, most people take it down because they understand that situation. But there's got to be fucking hard line in it. We had the same situation with IRSL at the high school level, back before the Iowa High School Sports Network, right? Like we would post clips within actual rules that are like the Iowa High School Athletic Association says you can do this, this, and this. We would do those exact same things. But if we were over a second, they were on our ass. But we've got WHO, Channel 13, Channel 8 going like basically just not even going against the rule, like just going against the rules, period. And no one is shutting them down. Like it's only because you see people as a threat, we're going to shut them down. That's where people are getting upset from Flow is because they're attacking those people that are a potential threat. And they're not a threat, right? Like Stalemates is not a threat. iWrestle is not a threat. Maybe if ESPN was posting pictures and videos or Fight Pass, whatever, I could see that. But like Pat Minio doesn't even have a web page. I mean, he doesn't have a subscription service. I mean, I don't know what. Maybe he sells some shirts with ice cream thing on his shirts. Like,
Scoop.
I mean, he's just a guy. I mean, so
that's always been my thing with Pat, and me and Pat are friends. Is the people that get so upset about him, leaking stuff and doing this and that. The thing with the leaking is, who do you think's telling him?
Well, coaches are for sure. And you can't get mad.
That's what I'm saying is like,
you can't get mad at
people who are getting mad at him for leaking. Is like, you guys understand, like, he's not got his ear to the door and like over listening on someone else's conversation and then running to Twitter and posting it. People tell him stuff.
Absolutely.
And the people that are telling him stuff are the people that you think are upset about him posting it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really get mad at him. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that are saying, oh, this guy's going to get mad because he leaked it, who do you think told him?
Absolutely.
The other thing is, Pat, like you said, is just a guy. And I've said that from the beginning, is like, he's just a guy with an opinion. Now, you can get mad at him for his opinion, or his take on things. People have been mad at me and people have been mad at you for their take on things. But the people that put him up there with like journalistic integrity you're just wrong.
Yeah.
It's just people that go out there, like the other sports have Pat Minios involved, like they have people that, especially with citizen journalism in general these days, so many people get a Twitter account, they buy the check mark, and next thing you know, they're in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat just has been doing that for a long time. And like we were talking about earlier, nobody wants to say anything about what's going on because we all get yelled at if you do. Pat don't care. Pat's the only one with the balls sometimes to say stuff. Does he go hard at the Hawkeyes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But who's the first one to tweet him when he, you know what I'm saying? It's this social media game that he's playing and he's winning.
Yeah, no, I totally like.
He was going at you this week.
He went at me. Yeah, he went at me for a tweet about.
What was it?
I tweeted out that the Iowa State wrestlers were going to be in the clear, which my information is from
Dude.
people directly involved, right? So things changed the week prior to that.
When it all
I
got
didn't go
announced,
back and change my tweet because honestly, I don't give a fuck. But like,
no,
I
you
mean,
can't change it.
cool. He like, he trolled me there. Like, cool. Like that. That's where like I think like I'm not sure how to treat Pat. Like I respect Pat for breaking freaking news. Like that's where you live. That's great. When you mess up, like you just need to own it and say, hey, fuck, I got the wrong information. That shit happens all the time. Same situation right there. I was told pretty good information, but at the end of the day, it wasn't from the NCAA. So,
Dude, when that went down, when the Des Moines Register guy put out that Panero was in trouble, I was like, this is fake news. The documents were there. Like the documents were there. And I was like, no, this is fake. And people are like, no, like, here's the document. And I was like, Photoshop's crazy.
Yeah, you can do about anything.
But I'm going down with the ship. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
one aspect of the Pat thing before we move past it, though, is what about how the NCAA posted originally the tweet with Pat's video and credited Pat, and then once it got taken down, they reposted it and credited the video to Flo. Like, I get they have the rights,
Well-
but isn't that still kind of like an odd, at least like maybe credit? I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
my thing on that was I actually, if it was it Pat's video or Flo's video?
Pat's
it was
video.
Pat's video.
That's weird. But the reason why I think Flo would go after the NCAA rather than Pat is it's another big platform. So they're thinking like if I would have done it, they probably wouldn't have said anything because I don't have that many followers compared to NCAA, right? So they want, like, if I know that my content is going to get posted on another big platform, I want the benefits of that. Okay. I remember early on, before I was friends with Brian Warner, I had made a meme about him getting sunburned,
beyond sunburn.
in that
So
event, that COVID event. And so I made a meme about him, and then he posted it without crediting me, and I commented like talking crap. And he's like, "Oh, dude, I didn't even know." Da, 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 da. And it's a funny thing now, but my response was like, "Hey, dude, like you have a big platform. I have at that time like 10 followers, so any little shine from a bigger platform is gonna help me out." So, I totally get that move from them, but the only weird part is it wasn't Flo's video.
It wasn't filmed by
Yeah,
them.
like why didn't they just like if
Just credit
we don't
nobody?
we don't know exactly what happened. My guess is whoever's running the NCAA wrestling Twitter, Instagram account, like they're not a high up person where they're like, let's check with our boss to say if we should do this or not. They're like, got pressure from Flo, getting pressure from Pat, like, oh shit, like let's do what we should do with who the streaming rights holders are. So they panicked and changed it. But like looking back at it, like we should just posted Flo's video from the live stream or whatever. Like that they took Pat's video and then cleaned it. It's so bizarre, so weird. But at the end of the day, it's like it's just so petty on both behalves. I mean, to like stick your, I don't know, just like move on. Like my blood's like just boiling, like thinking like, why are other people so upset about this? Like, it's really not even that big a deal. But
I love
mean,
Pat's parade. Like,
God.
I love that. Like, just 18 tweets in a row of like, "F you." But
Yeah.
If you give him an inch, he's gonna take it a mile, and that
Perfect.
was on site for him.
Oh, that's like that's his clubhouse. You know what I'm saying? He
Right.
lives in
Yep.
that game. And if you're Flo, you got to understand, like, do we really want to?
It's acknowledging
that.
him,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what he's hoping for in a way.
You got to
Yes.
get Pat on the show. Would you let Pat come?
Pat should come here for sure.
You let him?
Why? I have no problems with Pat.
All right, we'll get him on.
I just think
I want
Pat
him.
needs to realize where he really like.
Maybe we get him on
not,
for
not
Sci
saying
Hawk
we're
Week.
really where he's at, but like reality is like you're not gonna win that game against Flo. Like you can dog shit him as much as you want, but like, is it worth fucking losing sleep over it? I don't. Maybe he's not losing sleep over it, but like, I just feel like it's just so kind of weird the hatred there, I guess. But
That's when I stopped trolling. When I post stuff, and
Trolling.
before I would post it, I would be like, this is gonna bring some level of stress for the next few hours. Do I want to live through that or not. And
Yeah.
then just like, yeah, it'd be nice to not. So I would just stop trolling as much, which kind of sucks because I felt like that's when like, content was really going
Sick. Oh,
crazy.
it's
You know,
sick.
it's awesome.
No, it's sick and it's fun, right?
And it's fun and it like makes you like entertained for a few hours, but it's also like it can be stressful.
The worst part is like when you put something out that you feel like is like super like informative and you're like, oh fuck, I just pissed somebody off. Like, but you didn't really mean to. That's the worst. Like you're not really trolling somebody, but someone takes it as you're trolling them. So, bottom line, the video right are not Pat's. Flo has that right. Is it what they should have done? Probably not. Like, I'd be curious of like how that boardroom is going this morning of like the Flow Wrestling people. They're probably just laughing their ass off.
It's not even a conversation.
Yeah, like it's not even. It's just bad, like small bad PR, right? From a, but, Bash in, Kenya, you know, they were, you know, on social media as well. Who they're, you know, they're pretty popular, and they're on it. You know, they're saying their take is that we feel like more video clips should be out there, right? Which I totally agree on that statement, but there has to be certain limits, like as a rights holder, right?
And I think like if it's
The bigger sports, it happens in the bigger sports because there's just, you can't police it, right? Wrestling is such a niche where you can police a little bit more, unfortunately. So that's why Flows has that stranglehold.
right. Yeah, and I feel like if it's like you recorded it, you edited it, and you made your own original product out of the event, that should be cleared. Like at the end of the day, it's marketing if it's just clips, but in the black and white, in the fine print, Flo has those rights, and Pat does not have a good relationship with them. So it's not going to matter what you did to change that video. They're not going to let you air that.
Yeah. And that's just part of like when you're getting the media game of realizing like, oh, I can do that because you're just there to cover the wrestling event like you would. Like you just feel like you should, right? And then someone says, hey, you can't do that. You're like, oh, shit, I can't? Like, I don't really realize that. And that's just part of, I guess, being a media member is figure that, right? Like, I mean, Ty, you know, you guys went through that. Like, you don't think it's that big a deal. And it's not really that big a deal, but there's just like certain things you can't cross.
Yeah.
And then once you realize what that line is, you're going to go up to that line. But I feel like media people feel like there should be, like, there's no ill will intent in the situation, right? Situation like going to Fargo and like doing a documentary, like, yes, they own that right of that video out there, but like ill will intent to hope that like, God, I hope they watch my highlight video instead of watching the actual match and subscribing to Flow, right?
I don't think
there's got to be some
there was
kind
a
of
single person who didn't get a sub to Flow because of the video, you know.
Yeah,
but that's another thing.
Yeah, that's just a in general. I from the media world, I think I wish Flow would be able to, which just sounds like based off of some other conversations that they're just credit us and we're good, right? Like just don't post full matches, credit us and you're good. If they came out and went to email every media member and say, hey, if you're at an event, cover an event that we're streaming, just hey, video or watch live on Flow Wrestling, I mean, their shit would blow up even more. Like, I mean, they don't probably need small media companies, but if they just said, just say, watch it on Flow, why would you not want fucking 20, 30 high-end media people, you know, crediting Flow instead of being like trying to go around the rules and not tag them anything because there's like that pettiness there.
There was a kid that put out a Street League highlight reel that had a ton of wrestling in it, and he asked me to do it, and I said sure, and he got a ton of views. And I'm not jealous or spiteful about that at all because it just brings the brand to
awareness,
more eyes, and then those people, none of those people who watch it were gonna, you know, most of them who, if somebody watched it, they probably already paid for it, or if they didn't, they're what the hell is this? And then next time, they know what it is.
Yep.
So.
What did we learn from Iowa State Davidson other than
Chittum looked good? I think anybody who watched that, you probably realized that was probably the only match that wasn't a tech fall or a pin, but that was also their best guy in the lineup. I think he was. I think Dresser said he was a Puerto Rico World Team member, so he was probably the only guy with real high level experience. But other than that, you couldn't really take a whole lot away from that. It's cool to see Marcus Coleman and Nate Carr Jr. in the corner, and Erica. But other than that, it was just kind of a warm up for what's to come. They got Wisconsin next weekend up at Humboldt. Be a good duel. UFC Fight Pass will be there. That'll be good. Iowa's got Oregon State.
Yep. There's no tournaments or any opens. I think. Oh, Lindenwood. They used to go to Lindenwood. That's this weekend as well. I'm not sure if they're taking people open or not, but
Iowa High School starts this week.
Iowa first practice is today, which is pretty dope. That's actually here.
You said Iowa State's going against who at Humboldt?
Wisconsin.
Okay, nice. Someone commented earlier, and they said that it's going to be 28-point spread for that. That was their take.
I would take Iowa State on that.
Yeah, I think so
Wisconsin's
too.
having a down year. Braxton Amos, Olympic red shirt.
Yeah.
They got Eric Barnett still. He's good. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot of experience on that team, which is interesting. But it'll be a step up in competition regardless from Cleveland State and Davidson.
True.
And we got the big show.
Dude, Frost Boys, I mean, I think they just those guys just keep on like showing up in our comments. People are texting me. Like, people are fired up about them. I mean, the whole team is great, right? But I feel like people are super pumped up for the Frost Boys. I've never had people like, who are these Frost guys? Who are these Frost guys? There's new people that come to the lineup all the time. So I don't know if it's just brothers or what it is about them. But, I mean, as the Grandview Open this weekend, and people are asking me, like, anything American, right? Like, absolutely.
I think they will eventually. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're going to have some wrestle-offs on Thursday, Dresser said. In his press conference after the Davidson duel, he said they're going to do some 5 or 6. You need to go up there and stream on Thursday.
Well, let me in. Let's go.
He also said that Will Feldkamp went and did some simulated matches 2 hours after weigh-in to get used to that feel. So he should be back this week against Wisconsin.
What do you think about this? What's a 41-49 situation, right?
Someone just asked about the 141 situation. Is Frost going to get pushed out? He's wondering. I think referring to Etch.
Etchemandia coming down.
Allegedly.
What do you weigh on Sunday?
He looked about 142.5, but I'm just I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Just doing the eyeball test, it looked like 142.5 pounds. But if that's the case, he can go this weekend. I don't know how that guy's cutting any weight.
He's so short. He's stout, but he's so short. Well, even at 149.
I mean, the body fat on that dude's just got to be pretty lean.
Yeah, right. He's always been Jack City, though. I think 141, though, is definitely not like the craziest cut for him. I don't know, though.
I think the interesting thing is going to be if he wins that wrestle off, which that's not a gimme against the Frost, whichever Frost is at 41. Nobody can tell him apart, by the way. Even like most twins, you can figure it out. But I've cut both their hair one time, and I was just like, these guys look the same. Like the hair, like everything's the same about them. But they flipped a coin to see who was going to go down to 33 and who was going to stay at 41. Be interesting to see if Etchemandia wins at 41, which I'm not saying he's going to, but if he does, are those two going to wrestle off for 33?
They would have to, yeah.
That's interesting.
Are they both certified for 133?
Yeah, I think they both could go down. Originally I thought Redding goes down, but I don't believe he's certified for 33.
He looked good this weekend at the Grandview Open.
Swiderski won.
Swiderski looked good.
Perryman won, I think.
Yeah, Swiderski he won at 25. Aiden Reeves looked really good that dude's had tons of surgery. He's like a Spencer Lee of Grandview as far as surgeries go.
It's crazy. I didn't know he was still around. That's nuts.
He's got a clothing company. Someone said he works full time like during the day, and then obviously goes to classes and comes to practice. But he looked pretty good. Shout out to him. But Redding was Terrakina and Redding. Like, I've been kind of like hard on their shape, but like just because what I saw at wrestle-offs. But man, last week, like, I'm not sure what the hell happened. Like, maybe it wasn't shape, maybe it was just their mental, like just getting back in the game. But both those guys have really impressed me, especially Redding this weekend. Swiderski got frustrated at times this weekend by some people he probably shouldn't have been frustrated by. Garrett Grice got beat by Carson Taylor from Grandview. That was not. I mean, Taylor's really good. Got experience on Grice. That's probably why he got him there, I guess. But other than that, like not a whole lot from Grandview. Iowa
Parker
State.
Keckheisen won.
Parker Keckheisen won, but he did get kind of pushed by Llewellyn from Grandview. Which Llewellyn he was probably like out of the whole tournament. Like that dude could be D1 for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I saw him wrestle Tate.
I mean, he wrestled Parker better than Tate did. I mean, just for experience, I guess. That's what I chalk that up to. I mean, Llewellyn definitely could be on some D1 programs. I mean, I like that he's at Grandview, but I mean, he legit could be on a D1 program. He was giving Parker fits. Like you could tell Parker like was getting like frustrated. Like he probably didn't know anything about him. He's NAIA, right? Didn't know anything shit about him, and then he's like, "Dude, this dude's popping me in the mouth." So, shout out to him. But yeah, what else we got?
Well, we're at an hour. What are we thinking here,
comments?
Guys? I mean, we can go longer. I mean, I know you guys don't want to go longer than an hour, but
we got someone wanted to know why Nando didn't wrestle at Grandview.
Was just thinking that. I don't know. Was he listed at 197 against Davidson? I'm not sure, but
the same comment said that they thought he was registered for Grandview.
He was. Okay. He was registered. As of like Wednesday, he was registered. I did not see Nando there at all this weekend. On the list, at least the list that was put out, the duel last night, he wasn't on the list as a potential person. So, not sure why he didn't wrestle. I didn't see him all weekend. That's interesting.
Then
we'll see the return to Spencer Lee this weekend. He's going to be wrestling at the Bill Farrell, which I want to read you guys who is going to be on that. Let me see if I can get.
Yeah, Spencer Lee coming back. My first reaction was like, aren't we supposed to be taking some time off? Like,
well, I think he's got to qualify for Olympic trials.
That's the reason why, right?
And this is going to be the one to do it because he's going to have Nico Megaludis, Luke Lillidahl, nice. Young guy. Brandon Courtney, Daniel DeShazer. So I think if you're going to try to qualify, this is probably going to be it. So it'd be interesting to see him and what kind of shape. I know he's been out at Colorado training at the OTC out there. So
I mean, we've seen him if he's good if he can walk and we've seen him wrestle some matches where we know that he's been hurt. So I mean that makes sense. If it feels like this is the only time he's going to qualify, then he'll chill out. But one thing you got to think about is like a lot of these guys post collegiate are on contracts with apparel companies, so like they probably get paid by a certain amount of appearances. Not saying that's why Spencer Lee is going there, but maybe it has a factor. That's something that we have to think about in wrestling now. Is like, say you're Jordan Burroughs, like, do you have to make a certain amount of tournaments a year before you get like a bonus, like just to make an appearance? Like, do you have to wrestle a certain amount of matches? Like at some point they got to be started to be treated like professional athletes where, hey, you got to play 12 games. Otherwise you're not going to meet your contract. Like that's one thing I think people in wrestling don't think about is the contractual obligations they have to these clubs. Like Hawkeye Wrestling Clubs got to be paying them probably a good amount of money. Like obviously if you're hurt, like you just can't do it. But like at the same time, you don't get paid. Like what are you living off of, right?
If I'm like a club or whatever, if I'm, let's just say Titan Mercury's different because they got all the money. If I'm like a smaller club, like let's say you're the Philly Regional Training Center, which shout out to them. I think they do the best job of like marketing and just really promoting their regional training center. It's super smart what they're doing out there in Philly. They're promoting it as a professional sports team, which I think gets the city behind you. It gets your local community behind you. And if I'm Philly, right, if I'm the PRTC, I'm hosting my own dual meets. And what I'm saying is, if you are here competing under us and we're paying you to wear, if we're supporting you financially, you're wrestling in our event for free. Okay.
Period.
Because I'm paying you for 12 months out of the year. You can give me 6 minutes. Okay. And then you go and you hire an iWrestle, or not iWrestle, but like you hire a streaming company to stream it. And then you sell the gate and you sell the streaming rights to Flow or whoever. And you're making money that way. And I think if you really broke it down, college wrestlers could start doing this. Okay. So if I'm Spencer Lee, I know that I'm bringing in all the money.
Absolutely.
I'm going to Extreme Arena, which those guys are Hawkeyes, and I'm saying, hey, I'm doing the Floyd Mayweather. I'm gonna create my own money team. I'm gonna wrestle in this event. We could either partner on it. I could either, crowdfund, go out, get the money to rent the space. It costs money to put on events. Like you're probably minimum gonna have to put up minimum like 10K, and that's floor. Okay, you're probably going to be closer to 20,000. Street League 3 was closer to 20,000, which is mind blowing.
Yeah.
The fact is, if you're Spencer Lee or whatever, you're going to cut into your cost because you're not paying a Spencer Lee, right? So if you're Spencer Lee, you're wrestling, and then you're getting the money off the gate. You're telling me if Spencer Lee said, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to wrestle RBY, and me and RBY are going to split this gate. I'm have more risk involved because I got a little bit more sweat equity. I'm doing a 60-40 split with RBY. You split that gate, that's more money than you would have made, I think, if you would have got, because those Rudis cards, those Flow cards are kind of done, right? So if I'm Spencer Lee, I'm going out, I'm putting up my own money, my own sweat equity, putting on my own card, and I'm making the money off of the gate, and then I'm selling the streaming rights to Flow or whatever, right? That's I think that's kind of the model for boxing. I think so many times with wrestling, the approach has always been like trying to create a model of like a league or something that doesn't work because that costs so much money to keep it going. But if you're Philly RTC or you're Spencer Lee or whatever, they should put on their own events with their own money, and then you do it all, you keep it all, right? What do you think of that? You think that would work?
Well, that's kind of like what P&L is doing with the youth club. Like they're putting in their youth, they're putting in these youth duels, youth tournaments, and they are either streaming it themselves or they're trying to go out and get rights for it. So they're making it happen. They're not waiting for someone else to create the event. Exactly what you're saying. So kind of the same concept of what you're talking about, but the athletes.
Dresser though, like, your community is going to get behind you. You're telling me if I'm Parker Keckeisen and I got the community of Panther Nation behind my back,
the club should be figuring that out. Someone in the club should be like, hey, let's go wrestle PRTC. Like, how we make it happen? What can we make off this? Athletes, hey, this is why we pay you. Like we represent you. Exactly, that's what should happen. Instead of waiting
they don't
for
have
someone
to
to create
go
a league.
Say, Jordan Bros, you have to go wrestle this stud. You know what I mean? They could put him against whoever, but obviously it's better if Jordan wrestles somebody with a big name. But regardless, if I'm the club, I'm thinking, give me. If I'm paying you for 12 months, give me 6 minutes.
Not everyone, though, has the balls to say, I'm going to put on an event. They can't handle it. They don't know where to start, right? Like think about how many questions you guys had when you first say, hey, we're going to put on an event, right? Like you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit to go out and do it yourself, or you got to hire someone, which ultimately costs a lot of money, right? So you got to find the people themselves. That's how you make your money and can make money off the actual events. If you're going to go out and hire it out, you got to be like the premier club, like Inline Wrestling Club, right? They can go out, wrestle anybody. They can pay someone to produce it. They don't even touch it. But like some of these other like little clubs, like
I just think the risk is so small if you don't pay your own guys, which I know people thinking you're not going to pay the athletes. I'm paying them for 12 months. I'm paying them a salary. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have to pay the opponents, but that cuts half your like. Most of our cost is not in the logistics. It's in the athletes. Yeah. It's like 80% of our budget is the athletes. Mm-hmm. But if you cut that in half, I mean, you're gonna come out ahead. You're gonna raise money, and I think market like Philly RTC marketing themselves as a professional sports team, and then guess what? If you could break it down even farther, so if you're Philly I'm spitting free game right now. if you're Philly RTC, you go to let's just say Hawkeye Wrestling Club and say, hey, let's have a duel. Okay, your guys come here, we'll pay for travel, but we're not paying you any purses. Our guys next year or in 6 months will go to Iowa City, and we'll do the same deal.
Absolutely.
You guys pay for the travel, we'll wrestle for free. Our guys will wrestle for free. You guys get the gate in Iowa City, we get the gate in Philly, or you can 50-50, whatever the deal is. You pay a streamer, you hire a venue. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter. Well, a lot of these RTCs, the head coach is so involved, probably with that too, that is it worth the squeeze? You know, some of these like Iowa, Penn State, they've got millions of dollars coming in. So what's 20K or 50K at an event? You know, that they can maybe make. It's really not that much money. They'd rather just make a phone call and get 50K from somebody.
It's minor.
That's what I think is going to happen. That's what's probably happening.
You're probably true. It's probably true, but
too much work for a little squeeze.
You got to think though, if you do the right matchups, I mean, you can make more than 20K. I think
during COVID, like those Nittany Lion wrestling clubs, like they weren't great matchups, but everyone watched them. Like Rockfin did really well,
but their
club did really well,
but they weren't selling tickets.
Yeah,
most of the money from our events, I don't want to speak for you guys, but most of our money is from selling tickets. So if you're Spencer Lee and you're selling out Carver, what's that gate?
Yeah.
You know
Spencer Lee, RBY.
There's not very many Spencer Lees and guys that could do that, but
Jordan Burroughs versus Taylor, MMA at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I'm coming for the Spencer Lee RBY, but you could put that together. Yeah. Like those guys could get together and be like, let's just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Cost maybe 10, 15 grand to get the venue going. They definitely could. But wrestling people, like the egos are just, everyone that's in wrestling has insane egos for a reason, right? Like, especially if you are a former wrestler, it's even higher because you feel like you can do it better than anybody else. And you're competitive. So like, and that's why wrestling just fails in a lot of areas because we don't want to help each other out because we feel like we always can do it better. Like there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes that it's because wrestling people are so goddamn competitive. So like people are outside that don't wrestle, that never wrestle, that come in there like these people are fucking crazy. Like of all aspects of like these people are crazy. Well, because they're all wrestling people. Like most wrestling coaches aren't business minded. They don't know what the hell they're doing, but they can coach wrestling, right? So like to talk about the things that you're trying to do, Zach, like sounds great, and it should happen. But most of the people that are running these programs are just wrestling coaches. And
I mean, it's not gonna happen. But that's what I would do. I don't even know how we got on that subject, but
and they're college. Like I feel like being a college coach. I can't say this for sure, but I feel like college coaching comes before RTC coaching and things like that. And so like that opportunity is usually not thought about because there's a whole like 5-month season that they're thinking about trying to somehow get a trophy through.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if you throw a successful event and you make 50K, I mean, that's
right.
I'm hearing that's what kids are going for. So
let's put it on. I don't got 50K.
See, we can't do it though because we'd have to pay these guys so much
too much money. Yeah.
But I'm saying they can do
They're salaried. Yeah.
Do it all, you keep it all. But
absolutely.
All right. I think that's it. I gotta pee so bad. So
yeah.
You got something you want to say before we leave?
I'm good. I think it was I mean the drama, the tea. I guess you guys would say the tea.
What is this?
What's what? I had one of them. Like I'm kind of scared. Like I mean, if you ever had gummies before of any form, you just never know how it's going to affect you. But these are Winosauruses.
Winosaurus Rex.
Winosauruses.
Are you buzzing?
I mean, it's Monday.
I think next show you eat the whole bag.
I mean, this is just the dinosaurs have molded together.
If you eat that right now, I'll stream for 3 hours.
Okay, this you have to be 21 to get it. It doesn't say what the percentage is, so it's probably really small. But yeah, this is a big old bag of gummies. So yeah, next week let's be what's going on this weekend? We can see Iowa State will be on Sunday, or Iowa State, Wisconsin will be on Sunday.
Then Iowa, Oregon, and
what's you and I got?
That's a good
They're
question.
getting a new room.
Oh, that did go down this week. Honest reaction from the renderings, like just really bad renderings, I guess.
Somebody said, yeah, never mind.
Like they're just like someone like just dropped some clip art of like wrestlers on the graphic. I want to believe that it's gonna happen, but UNI just doesn't have any money. Like revenue at UNI is very difficult, from what I've been told.
Which is crazy because they got to be one of the only teams in the country that like probably do well on tickets.
They're top 10 in attendance every year, and they're the third. They're the third school in Iowa. As far as attendance, but they're in the top 10 in the country. It's crazy. Um, I, I get the vibes that those renderings came out a little forced. Personally, I think they tacked it on to the renovations they're trying to get for the dome fundraising. Like, what kind of money, if I give $1 million to the Unidome, this fund that is in this collective to get the wrestling room, is all my $1 million going to that wrestling room, or is it going to the overall budget of the Unidome freaking renovation? Like, I don't know, just something doesn't feel right. I think from a normal person looking at it, like, oh great, they're getting a wrestling room, but when you dig deep, I just feel like it doesn't feel right. It just feels a little forced and just to get people off their ass. That's how I feel about UNI, unfortunately.
I'll take your word for it. Tyler, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we're at a minute 6 or an hour 16. Sorry, guys, we didn't get too deep into Vito and Crookham. And let's see, someone else said we did talk about VT and Ohio State at the beginning a little bit. To me, that was a solid duel. It was even after the spread covered. There's like 5 upsets. That was a great duel, but I think we're just gonna call it good right there. So,
cheers. Next
right.
week.